tier with something a little unusual, but actually played it super fluidly into the macro game. But a lot of his timing, so to speak, it's like he plays counter meta. So say if the Terran normally does a push because the Zerg is kind of droning up around that period of time, sometimes he can play to not drone up at all, stomp your attack, and then do a massive counter attack to be very, very far ahead. That kind of style. Like it's very, very difficult to play against, to get a grip on things. And here we see him going for like gas pool very quickly. And this is one of the fastest speedling openers you can pretty much do while still claiming you're playing macro.
Yeah, exactly. Also claiming that. I mean, there was 2 extractor tricks in total in that build too, just to get as many lings as possible with the second one. And that's got to be a dead command center, right? Like, how do you, unless you can barely finish it in time, but that just doesn't seem very realistic. And then even his main base would be under threat. Of course, repair will out-repair lings, no problem, but a command center.
So there's a few things here for Kelazhur. Does he run to the main to find out whether it's a Roach Warren? No, he's actually just going to run straight back home.
Okay.
Which that's a decent response. And I mean, these 2 lings will arrive, but he does have a Marine. Is he going to pull SCVs against this? Because if he pulls SCVs and he has like a Marine and a Reaper... Okay, now he sees speed. Okay. So now that Kelazhur... Oh no, don't lose the Reaper. Okay, he doesn't, but now he knows exactly what he's up against.
He just restarts the command center. He's going to wait a little while, I guess, to actually cancel it, but yeah, there's not much that you can do against it, honestly. If you SCV scout, then maybe you can put the command center on the high ground, but barely getting that factory down as well. Again, they'll out-repair the ling damage here. It's only scary if there's banelings on the way too, which is certainly something to consider, but we know there is not, and Kelazhur did send his Reaper across the map to get that, what's going on after this? Is it roaches? Is it banelings? Lots of minerals lost worth repairing the supply depots, and it is 2 per to really make sure they're alive, but eventually Erik will have to leave.
He will, and if we're looking at this and being like critical or talking about like what's gone good, what's gone bad, I will say like getting the cancel was obviously really, really big for Erik. That was the whole plan right from the get-go. Kelazhur did a nice move of leaving the command center there, like not done, but it bought a lot of time. That bought him time to switch the factory over so he could actually reactor out Hellion. That was smart. But was that too many lings? In an ideal world, right, maybe he could have got the same job done with like 8 lings with speed maybe, but Kelazhur, even though he did get his natural cancelled, the worker count's equal for now. Erik isn't making a ton of drones as of this moment. Like, I still think Kelazhur's in a pretty damn good spot.
Yeah, I think it really helps that he was so smooth in dealing with it, right? He didn't initially think, oh, it's just this, because speed finished kind of as those 2 lings came in. That was definitely a help. Didn't pull the SCVs and then go crap, and that's how things really spiral out of control. But just fluidly going into the next command center and now setting a down location after clearing up the lings that were remaining. He's got a Viking to push away the Overlord, which is pretty important because I saw Marauders on the tab and I was like, oh, does he think it's Roaches or is he going to do the Roach? Well, usually Hellbats, but the Armory would be a decent bit late. But anyways, he is getting Marauders slow as well, so I do expect that push. And can Erik hold against it?
This is super unorthodox, right? Like, I love the response. I think it's going to work out really well for him. Without the Armory, definitely unusual. The gas is super tight, though, and he's getting a Liberator with this. I think he's going to land the Viking as well, just for an extra bit of DPS. And Erik, he has 9 lings on the map and 5 queens. Getting a lair, he has no idea this is coming.
Yeah, really, I mean, who would? Just regular old Hellions are going in still, if with enough of them, deal a lot of damage. Even the Marine joining in here. Now, the Medevac goes aggressively on top of the Queens, but barely survives. Erik tried his best to focus fire that down, but even if he had, I mean, look at what's still left over, and all the Queens are dead. Lings are only now on the way, and they got to tackle 6+ Hellions more are being rallied across the map. Is this just it?
I believe it is Zombie Grub. I mean, the Medevac goes down, but the Medevac, what are you going to do? Only lings are able to be produced here. There's no Baneling Nest, no Roach Warren, and that's a lot of lings just kind of falling, along with every drone that Erik has ever loved, and Kelazhur bringing the heat in game 1. Jeez Louise.
Well, that was really nice follow-up from him, too. You know, to actually fit in that Viking to kill that Overlord, I think was pretty crucial, because maybe he could have done Medevac and Armory, without that Viking being produced. But instead, he was able to completely deny information. And Erik was probably thinking like, no, I got the head start. I got the bit of the bop, and then I'll control the game for the next couple of minutes. And Kelazhur was like, no, actually, no, you're not. I'm just not going to stop building Hellions.
What a smooth response, though, from Kelazhur. Like, a lot of times when I know I'm not going to finish a CC like that, I'm like, okay, I'm going to cancel it. I better use those minerals immediately. But Kelazhur, it's like he's faced that 20 times a day, every day of his life. Like, he was just like, no, I'm going to use it to buy time. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And it was all very smooth. The follow-up as well, getting out the Marauder, obviously did not need the Armory. And then that wasn't even the full thing. He had the Liberator flying over to like maybe the third base as well while all that was going on. I'm always super impressed by Kelazhur. And even though I have no idea how much he's practicing, when I see players stream, like this happened on a laser stream a little while ago, he played practice games against against Kelazhur, and Kelazhur was just going ham, with different things every game. And yeah, he's definitely an interesting guy to watch, that's for sure.
Yeah, he actually tweeted at us kind of during that War Chest Team League start, right? And it was a bit too late for me to choose him, but he tweeted at us because I guess they knew there was one more choice. I forget what the situation was. He was like, hey, I'm 7,000 on Europe. And I was like, oh, well, maybe I do want to pick you, but yeah, unfortunately, it was a little bit too late. But yeah, Kelazhur's been playing really well. I do think that sometimes it is more about that mid game where I can see kind of some of the falter, maybe like a little bit of overzealousness that has gotten him in trouble in the past, a little bit too fancy, if you will. And that's where I think Erik might have the opportunity to do something. But I also do respect Erik's choice to go for some early cheese to start the entire series off. Maybe it did throw Kelazhur off. You're right. It looked like he'd played against that 20 times today already. He was so smooth, and it seemed like he had that follow-up in mind from seeing the first two lings with speed.
And for those of you that haven't met Kelazhur in person or like seen him speak, he is one of the calmest individuals you will ever meet. Like, yeah. if you'd be okay with anybody dating your sister, it'd probably be Kelazhur, like he's that kind of guy. Like, he's so nice. But then his play, like that play was very indicative of how he is. Like, he's just smooth, calm, and calculated. Very often, he's exceptionally aggressive, and that's what he likes to do. Anyhow, speaking of the man himself, spawning over in the bottom right-hand side, it is Kelazhur.
In the top left, as the red Zerg with a 15 hatch, he is Erik.
Hatch, huh? And then extractor trick to go up to 15 out of 14, and then the Overlord. Latin America never ceases to amaze me with some of the builds that they pop out of there.
Yeah, right? There's like, you figure there's only so many options for Zerg as far as the opener goes, because you watch like these top tier European Zergs, and even when the Korean Zerg can be a little more aggressive, they usually kind of stick to the usual 16, 17, 18, right? But then you do watch some of the more unique Zerg, and they're suddenly doing like 14 out of 15, or 14 out of 14 rather, or 15 out of 14, and you're like, even earlier, and somehow manage to get a hatchery down. And you're like, what? Okay, so what exactly does this do? And that is actually the question right now. Like, what exactly is he planning to do with this? I mean, is he going to get a couple of lings out and hope to still get at that delay on the command center? I'd assume so. It is still kind of an earlier pool. There we go. But then why not just go for the pool first as we would usually expect it, right?
Yeah, or like, a normal, just something a little bit more normal. I guess he will get two lings on the map and can maybe try and, get the SCV that's building the CC. That might be one goal of his, which, that definitely is annoying when that happens to you as a Terran player. And so I think we already get the feeling that Erik's going into this series wanting to be a little bit cheeky. That was a nice drone save for him, turning into a Spore Crawler. But if I'm Kelazhur and I see that, there's no lings here, because normally you run into 4 lings every day of the week, I'm already kind of sniffing out something. And look how fast Kelazhur, like, he also sniffed it out. So I really feel that Kelazhur's he's honed into the game right now, and he's just playing super good. Even running away with that Reaper there to just leave the Marine to deal with. Yes, it takes extra damage, but that scouting information to find out what's the next cheeky little thing that my opponent's going to do to me, I really like his play.
It's very clean. And yeah, I guess the idea there is that the hatchery looks like a regular hatchery first with the amount of creep spread. But then, as you pointed out, kind of the lack of Lings defending is another big question mark. Big enough a Terran player is going to be prepared to pull away the SCV. And because the Marine coming out is such a popular build right now, yeah, it wasn't too much of a worry. Erik does continue on with a regular build after this. Third hatch comes down, loses a creep tumor, but has still another active one at least. Fairly fast lair. And that is something that Kelazhur seems like he's about to scout. Yeah, pretty much no problem. Gotta imagine it's into Aspire. But that would be on submarine? Wow, okay, yeah, all right, but that's still my guess.
Definitely. Oh, look at Kelazhur. So he's faking Cloak here. So kind of faking that he's going Banshee. We'll be dealing with that Overlord as well. And I love the fact that he started the Cloak before the Overlord got to the starport. Because, you know, sometimes you can be like, now I'll start Cloak. And then the Cloak starts up and it's like, yeah, I'm not buying that. But this time, Erik might genuinely buy it. And the thing is, you always have to respect Cloak. Because getting Spores, it means that you don't instantly lose the game. Whereas, like, say if it isn't Cloak, Spores can always be handy afterwards as well.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be useful indeed for the Liberator pressure that Kelazhur is actually going to apply. So Bailey Nest comes down, and I guess in the next 200 minerals, Spire will eventually too. I mean, it's not the first time I've seen Spire, fast Spire on Submarine, but just with the way that it opened up, didn't seem to do very much for him. And then one of the fastest layers that you can really get without being super cheesy, without being like a Nidus, you know, for a bunch of roaches. That's where I'm a little like I'm kind of scared for him, but yeah, despite the quickness of that lair, he's actually not using it for very much, and he's going to start taking damage from the Liberator too, and it's feeling kind of like an awkward build right now.
This is a really awkward build, Zombie Grub, and you're totally right. The speed of that lair, like he's got 600 gas that he obviously wants a Spire, I think. Unless this is going to be... Okay, yeah, gets the Spire, gets the Baneling speed around the same time, but this build, it's... Kelazhur's making his life difficult. Like, I don't know what else he's doing to throw Erik off, but it definitely doesn't seem lined up all that well, because Kelazhur, he's ahead in workers, which is already kind of weird. He's like, going to have upgrades, like, well on the way, which, you know, I don't think Erik is going to have for a while, and... Yeah, just Kelazhur's definitely in control of this game right now.
Yeah, just not a very streamlined build. You know, it's probably could have been a lot nicer, a lot quicker, and instead it's going to be a little bit awkward. Not just on like, you know, the whole economy issue, which he's finally getting to a decent place, having more drones, but also on like, does it really bother Kelazhur? You know, sometimes when it is that very, very early Spire, it's like, oh great, now I got to deal with this and then worry about my push. But now as it is. On a short map too, I mean, Kelazhur feels like he could still push out and then force the mutas to be used kind of, you know, first for the defense. Well, let's see what he decides. I will say the one thing for Submarine, when we talk about this, you know, whenever we do see it in TVZ, is that whoever gets momentum kind of keeps the momentum, right? Like if you don't do anything with your first push against that Zerg and suddenly creep spread is like enveloping your own third base, that is very scary. So maybe that's what he's thinking, trying to get that hold on the map, really pressure in with the mutas, and then have really good creep spread. And he's trying to push that.
Yeah, the creep spread is definitely starting to really develop here. And I mean, Kelazhur, he's definitely been trying to get it denied. I am scared for Erik in these next few moments, though, because these supplies, I don't feel they're meant to be at what they are right now, especially with 1-1 completed against 0-0. This tank positioning is also really scary. Does he have an armory? Oh, he does. And so the Hellbats will be joining the fray as well. Erik has got his work cut out for him, and he's supply blocked. No Overlords on the way either. Just 2 starting.
And this is what I was saying. Like, you just feel like the mutas got to be used defensively first, which really isn't going to, unless he takes like one hell of a fight. At no point is Kelazhur going to feel as suffocated as maybe Erik was hoping he would. The fight already not going super well. It does grab one tank. but barely not the... Oh my god, he doesn't get the other one. Loses mutas, loses drones, loses mineral mining, and then might actually lose his third hatchery as well.
And he doesn't even have a fourth on the way. It's not like he was playing greedy and overextending here. Kelazhur just came, saw, and conquered, and now he's 40 supply ahead. 2-2 is on the way as well. And Erik, he didn't have a chance this game whatsoever. Look at that resources lost tab. 5k resources lost against like the 1k of Kelazhur. GG.
All right, so Kelazhur is playing almost perfect here. Nothing is interrupting him. Nothing is bothering him. He's not getting into his own head, wondering what possibly could happen. He is playing super clean.
Super duper clean. And I mean, Erik is trying to make the life of Kelazhur a little bit tricky. And Kelazhur's just like, mate, this ain't my first rodeo. Like, I've been a pro for a long time. And yeah, I'm actually super impressed with how Kelazhur's dealing with things. And he's even doing little cutesy things too, like attacking rocks where he knows a creep tumor will be and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm really enjoying this.
Kelazhur, there can sometimes be those games where I am like, maybe, you know, the Zerg also is well set up and is doing fine. And that's when I start to worry a little bit about Kelazhur and his ability to continue pushing, because that's where he faltered last season, actually. In the one game that he lost, it was kind of like more of a mid-game issue. But if Erik is going to kind of put himself behind, it looks like. I mean, even when he does get what he wants, that command center cancel in the first game, it still felt like he was actually the one that was put behind, or rather was immediately punished for what he did. Then Kelazhur's not going to lose any maps against him. So we are going to go to a break before we head into what could be the final game, Game 3, with the way that Kelazhur is playing. But I'm hoping that Erik can strike back. When we come back, it'll start off on Death Aura. Don't go anywhere. We're headed into game number 3 in this TVZ, going on to Death Aura. Kelazhur so far has been playing perfectly. He has responded to aggression in very smart ways. He's been saving units when he doesn't even necessarily have to, and he's just been looking like an absolute beast. The Muslim, what could Erik possibly do now?
You know, it's a tough one, Zombie Grub, because right now he's running into a wall, but like a super intelligent wall that's making all the right plays. And what I would say, if I was Erik's coach somehow, I'd be like, okay, Erik, I know you like the cheeky stuff, but the cheeky stuff ain't working. And very often we can be like, you know, if the cheeky stuff works out, you can look like a genius or you can look like a fool if it doesn't. But Kelazhur's just obviously, he's in the zone right now. This stuff is putting Erik a little bit behind, and he's throwing himself off more than he's throwing Kelazhur off. So just go to whatever you're comfortable with, and try and get into your zone, because right now this ain't working.
I think that is the best advice. I really do. And Death Aura certainly can be a macro map, so maybe we'll finally see more of that mid-game. But then again, even if it's not Erik, who's the one starting things, Kelazhur, he wouldn't just do a Marauder Hellion push to get revenge about a canceled CC, man. He would do it just in general. So maybe this time it'll be his aggression that starts things off. In the top left on Death Aura, we have the blue Terran, Kelazhur.
And over in the bottom right, up to something cheeky, and yet again, it is Erik. So, Zombie Grub, how do you feel about the 15 hatch in yet again?
Not a fan. Apparently he still goes into an okay macro build, I guess, but how okay was that with the way that the last game looked? I don't know.
You know, so I will always remember my time in EG when I look at weird, kind of funky Zerg builds. Because do you remember the name LZ Gamer?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, so back when Zerg used to start off with 6 drones, there was 2 viable openings. It was either you go 9 Overlord and then make a drone afterwards and then drone up normally, or you go 10 Overlord with the extractor trick. Now, somebody worked out mathematically that the 9 Overlord was slightly better. Like, very slightly, but they were both very similar. Like, you could kind of mix it up. Now, LZ Gamer, and I remember playing practice games with him, and I ended up watching, like, one of the replays afterwards, because, I do that. I watch myself. It's really fun. And he went 10 Overlord without the extractor trick, which was just crap. Like, he ended up, like, 30, 40 minerals behind where he should be. And I was like, LZ Gamer, like, stop doing this. And he's like, why? It's my build. I'm like, you don't, there's no point having your own special funky build that's just way worse than the normal stuff. Like, this isn't cool. And I remember being like, look, I'm going to stop practicing with you if you keep playing like this inferior stuff. And he's like, fine, okay. And then kind of like joined in with it. He then started playing better. And I was like, God damn it. Like, these kind of things. So when I see Erik's like funky little builds that Kelazhur's reading really well, this game he made a little bit of a mix-up here in that he sent 4 lings instead of the 2. But look, he gets the CC up. And
it doesn't hit fast enough, like Death Aura is a good 6 seconds longer than Submarine. So not even going to get this SCV. Still doesn't seem very worth it, although I guess the Marine died this time.
Yeah. This is when my elitism comes in, and again, this is from living with people like Idra. Like, I'm going down memory lane here, but yeah, I don't understand doing something a little bit weird, a little bit funky, if you already know that your opponent's dealing with it very well and it's setting you behind. But this game, he's going full out funky. There is no third hatch on the way. Kelazhur goes and immediately scouts this lair. Now, some things that Kelazhur has to be worried about, like, is this a Nidus? Like with roaches? Is this Spire play? Because he's actually going 3cc, which is super greedy. So Kelazhur, he's mixing it up. And Erik, he's mixing it up in the kind of a cheesy sort of way.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit tech cheesy. You know, it's not going to win him the game immediately like a Nidus or a Roachworn would, because I am not expecting a Roachworn. But with a fast, very fast Spire, you know, we already saw that kind of more 3-hatch Spire in the last game. Still very early with the Lair and the Spire in general, but that's kind of more accepted as the fastest Spire. This could be the faster Spire, the actual 2-base, 3rd hatch is being pushed off. But it doesn't necessarily make it that much scarier, I think, for a Terran who actually like does their build order correctly, right, and has good macro and good reads on what's going on, and can also pressure and defend at the same time. You know, it's a great cheesy build for maybe like a ladder of like a Masters player, but for Kelazhur, I don't think it really scares him. And also, I think it really requires you to have amazing creep spread. And does Erik have the amazing creep spread that would make this work?
So Kelazhur, he sees all these lings, and right now you can kind of be saying to yourself, like, okay, it's not Roach for sure. So I think he's definitely going to be in the know. And the thing is, I actually think 2-base Spire's a good build. It's definitely back in fashion. The bit that I'm kind of like, okay, this is 2-base Spire, off kind of screwing yourself over with like the 15-hatch early on, and then like, you know, the weird extractor tricks as well, and the early lings to be aggressive. It's just... It's an odd way of doing things. I'm not necessarily sure if it's getting Erik leads at any point. The only way I see it getting you leads is if your opponent kind of messes up. And when you're at this level, you're praying and hoping as opposed to trying to outgame your opponent.
Yeah, I'm in total agreement. You know, I think this, for me, it was kind of popular like last or even the previous season, maybe even, because I remember Scarlet was doing it, you know, a decent amount. And I was really, you know, I wanted to emphasize that I think it worked better for Scarlet than most of the Zergs who were trying it. Not that it didn't work for some other people. You know, Cyril did it a couple times, sure. But that it works especially well for Scarlet, yeah, because she has such amazing creep spread. No matter how hard you try, she just apparently is going to be in the middle of the map before you can do anything about it. But even then, like, she, I think, stopped kind of doing it, you know, reliably. It's not your opener for every single ZVT. But anywho, Kelazhur's already now had a lot of creep spread, and while Erik is still going to be getting to that mid game, I think in the best place yet so far, Kelazhur is not in a bad place at all. He's already defended with missile turrets. He's got his upgrades on his way. 3rd CC was slapped down. This is Viking. All right, sure. But he's still going to have his push that, if he continues clearing up creep spread as well, it might still be pretty decent.
So Kelazhur's actually continuing to make Hellions. I wonder... Yeah. Oh, he's actually got Reactor Factory here, so it's going to be quite a lot of Hellions with this. So the Hellbats with the push, very reminiscent of like the Mutas did get caught by a little ragtag group of Marines, and the Marines are slaughtered, but not without taking out a couple of those Mutas. Kelazhur's already up to 5 barracks, pumping out lots and lots of units. So Erik... Oh, his Evos have only just started with this. So even though he's got a lot of mutas and more on the way, it's very delayed upgrades.
I do believe it is later than usual for this build, right? Like, of course, you're going to have later upgrade, just what you're choosing to prioritize and needing the Baneling speed as well to make sure you don't die. But, yeah, it feels even later. Like, he put a lot into mutas. So he's actually at 15. He would have been at 17. That's a lot for 7.5 minutes. Have a pause there, all right? Hello.
Yeah, all his gas has gone into mutas for sure. I also see on the production tab we have 3 hatcheries being made at the same time, which is kind of like, oh, one of them's a macro hatch, and then 2 of them, it's like a 4th and a 5th simultaneously. But I think the start of this game has actually gone pretty okay for Erik. He obviously has to worry about this push, but Banelings, they don't really care too much about upgrades when it's against Bio. So, you know, as long as he holds it off decently, he could be in good shape. But I do think maybe the 4th base could be a little bit quicker and stuff. And as you pointed out, the creep spread, it's maybe not as advanced as it should be. But we'll see. We're back into the game immediately here. And Erik's trying to dance around with these mutas, still getting a little bit of damage done. But Kelazhur's very solid overall and starts up his 2-2 immediately. It very much feels like Kelazhur's not missing a beat. And if we look at the work account as well, this is one of the main things that scares me about plays like this, where the mutas are meant to buy you so much time, but he's having to use them defensively. That is a lot of Banes, though.
Yeah, and a little bit of a last-second split there, so the Hellbats didn't soak up as much as they would have wanted, and the Marines also got some splash there, too. That is a very solid cleanup. That was quick. That was, I mean, efficient might be the wrong word to use when it comes to Banelings, but it was very quick, and that's one of the important things about any type of cleanup. So he also didn't lose his base, which I was prepared to talk about how when you see this from some Zerg players, it's kind of almost like they're okay with maybe even losing one of those bases because at least they have another fourth, if you will, to go fall back to. But it seems like Erik is actually legitimately going to be on 5 bases. I'm assuming this drop is not going to be able to kill it, although it will grab a couple of drones, maybe a couple of mutas as it leaps into the main base. I would love to, but that is a lot of mutas. 14 of them as the Medivacs drop out. Okay, he's going to respect it. He's going to wait for wings.
He is, and that is the right move. Oh, just 2 Banelings running in there, taking out all those Marines. And Erik, I like this by him. He cleans this up and he's like, boom, 11 drones. So he's been at 69 drones while this has gone off. I know Kelazhur killed a few, but you have to start getting to that like 80 to 90 number when you play this kind of style because you're not going to trade super efficiently when it comes to just cost. But Banelings, they're one of the most supply efficient units in the game. So taking advantage of the fact that you can keep the Terran on the other side of the map with your mutas, you then get a big economy. But these mutas, they're kind of playing the defensive role right now as opposed to like getting stuff done. And he's just missing this drop. And this, it's not yet a drilling, what's it called? Drilling claw Widowmine drop, but it can still deal a lot of damage and distract.
Yes, and that's exactly what it's primed to do. It's distracting, so it won't get any damage done, but the mutas aren't helping. They're not doing harassment. They're not scouting this push, but there is very little creep spread, so pretty much the last second defense here, but maybe good enough. Good split there from Kelazhur. One Widowmine was triggered. Actually, both of them were taken down, so this is just back to pure bio. Does Erik have enough? I guess not. He's waiting for more Banelings, so a hatchery does indeed fall. Just totally unprepared for that attack.
Oh, and his 2-2 just finished, and boom, starts up +3 attack as well. Drilling Claws on the way, Thor on the way. Also, behind all this aggression that Kelazhur's been kind of just throwing at Erik, he's put up a 4th behind this as well. He's getting turrets down. He's just been on top of everything macro-wise. And Erik, this lack of upgrades and just the fact that he hasn't been able to be as aggressive as he wants with these mutas, it's really biting him in the butt.
I mean, it's exactly the problem for him. This many mutas going up to 23 with +1. If they're the ones controlling you and the Terran's the one forced to stay back and desperately try to drop, but it's not really working out, that gets really scary. It's really suffocating. They do find a Thor, but then another base actually goes down. Lings in the middle kind of got caught by some of the bio units there from Kelazhur. Yeah, they're not really suffocating Kelazhur. Kelazhur is still getting on the other side of the map, which I thought would be a bit difficult after his first push was cleaned up so well. Just maybe a little bit too aggressive on creep, but he is swiftly following it up with consistent aggression. Well, he's going to back away for now. I do assume that it's going because he's going to max out and then turn over to the left side.
Yeah, it's just a really rough spot for Erik because, I mean, we're looking at this creep spread, and it sounds weird to say this, like, the creep to his 5th base, like, his 5th base is kind of uncreeped here, which is really, really weird to say because that is so close to your natural. So Kelazhur has done a really good job of cleaning things up, and this run by, connects with the Widowmine. That is quite a few Banelings, but the PF alone almost dealt with those Banelings, and Kelazhur, he's just trading so efficiently everywhere. I feel kind of bad just like speaking good about what Kelazhur's doing, but he's just playing this very, very perfectly.
Yeah, he's not letting the momentum shift, which I think is really important, because as soon as he is entirely on his home, and that's it, like no pushing, no drops, or only one drop, something along those lines, that's when Erik really looks strong. But as Erik is consistently trying to do things defensively, and then even when he does try and get an engagement on the other side of the map, it doesn't really go that well. He did get a killed command center, so it wasn't terrible, but not what he wanted. That's not a great sign, as he's not moving up into the better army. He's not going up to ult, he's not going up to further upgrades, as Kelazhur takes a couple of Banelings to the face, but this attack is right before 3-3 is done. That is going to kick in.
Yeah, nice splits by Kelazhur. It is a little bit of an anti-timing, I suppose. Oh my gosh, if Erik engages in a moment, he's like, yeah, I'm against 2-2, right? And then boom, the +3 attack finish. This could be really bad for Erik. He is moving all the way off creep as well. 3 is done. The mutas are falling to the Marines, and great splitting by Kelazhur. Marines everywhere, saving the Thor as well. And the mutas, it's just down to like 6 after being up in the high 20s. This on lifting up the Marines as well. Kelazhur, he's just playing with his food right now.
He's got a lot more reinforcements that he is going to bring those medevacs back to. I believe those are some of the last of the Banelings. Literally 3 more and just pure Ling reinforcements. Lings with not very good upgrades either. This is going to be the killing blow. Kelazhur continuing to rally forward, even on creep, not really clearing it up despite that scan. There's a tap out. Kelazhur with the clean 3-0.
Super